Hey everybody, welcome back to the CowPod. It's Olivia Cowan, and I'm so excited to be collaborating with Climate Hauntings Who Haunts This House. Hey guys, I'm so excited to be back, and it's such an honor to be able to collaborate with this awesome website who's spreading awareness about climate change to everyone that wants to know about it. I was asked by Climate Haunting to do a little segment on my experience with climate change in Utah since it's so prevalent there. So I'm super honored to be able to talk about it. It's something I'm really passionate about, and it's something that everyone should know about. So to start it off, I just want to go over the basics of climate change. I know that the website kind of really goes over that, so I'm not really going to go in depth. But basically, climate change is the gradual increase of temperature of the Earth's atmosphere. This whole website, their goal is to spread the idea about climate haunting. And when I met with them, I was really shocked to have a totally new understanding of what climate haunting is, because I was under the impression that climate haunting was more the fact that when modern technology was created, the people doing that were ignorant of the effects that it could have on the planet in the future. But in reality, those creators, it was inevitable for them to ignore the effects of the future because they didn't know any better. They didn't know that this stuff was going to blow up and create so much pollution. So climate haunting has established that the haunting of climate change is the fact that the habits that were created over 100 years ago are still being used today. And people are being ignorant now to change the habits of the past when we know that the world is heating up much more than it used to be. So I think that was a really cool thing that I learned, and you can read more about that in their website. They touch on Al Gore and all of the history of the discovery of climate change, which is also really interesting. So now I'm going to get into my experience in Utah. I grew up in Salt Lake City, Utah, on the East Bench, so I'm right in the middle of Salt Lake City, and I love it there. It's amazing. There's 4 seasons. The snow is amazing. I don't know, it's just one of my favorite places to be. And currently living in Seattle, obviously I know that the effects of climate change are everywhere, as I've lived here for probably 3 months and it's only rained about 4 times since I've been here, which is super strange for Seattle. But I guess I'm not complaining, but that just shows the effects of climate change, which obviously are affecting our whole world. But when it comes to Utah, I've had a lot of experiences with direct climate change that kind of affect my life. So first, Utah's Wasatch Mountains and Wasatch Front are prime examples of the effects of current ignorance of global warming that stems from the habits that are long overdue, which reaches back to the haunting. Everyone knows that Utah is pretty much known for their great skiing conditions and the amazing lake effect snow that's super fluffy, super powdery, and the mountains are incredible. Mountain communities have been based on snow as long as they've been around, but this makes them really vulnerable to climate change. And I love skiing. I'm on the mountains all the time when I'm back home, and it's just one of the most fun activities to do with friends in Utah. It also is one of the only activities that draws people to Utah, so it's kind of a big part of the economy and just life there. According to some sources, Utah has warmed 1.5 degrees Celsius since 1900, which is a lot, and this number continues to increase. And as the amount of precipitation due to climate change has decreased, ski resorts have had to rely on snowmaking, which it does work, and it does provide there to be snow on the ground, but it creates more carbon dioxide and uses excess water, which is limited in the time of Utah's drought. So that kind of goes against everything that's trying to stop climate change, so using snowmaking machines is probably not the most beneficial way to solve this. Utah has been in drought for a really long time, but it's currently experiencing the worst drought that it has ever seen. There are no restrictions right now on homeowners and businesses, but according to the Utah Department of Natural Resources, public utilities are asking that all water customers avoid watering their grass more than twice a week. A little personal background on that. At my house, we've always had trouble keeping the grass green. In Utah, you don't really see super green grass anywhere, but it's really hard because you kind of have to balance when you water your lawn. And I would have friends over, and we would hang out outside, like around the pool, and all of a sudden the sprinklers would go on, and my friends would kind of like scold me for having them on. And that's something that is super valid, but it's weird that that's something that people like kind of argue about. My family at least has started to focus on watering the grass at nighttime only, which is pretty suggested in Salt Lake City. That's one way that climate change can be helped, because the heat is not really prevalent when it's dark outside. Therefore, the water isn't being wasted. So, as you can see, climate change has already become a big chain of events just in Salt Lake City. Using water as we always have is not going to cut it anymore, because we're losing water and the heat is causing that. So a change definitely should be made from habits of the past. The Great Salt Lake is the biggest body of water in Utah. It's really salty. I've been there before. You can get in the water, but it makes your skin feel disgusting for like a couple days. But when you get in, you notice that you can float without doing anything because there's so much salt in the water. It supports the survival of a web of wildlife and provides the lake effect snow that I talked about earlier. But according to Bloomberg News, Salt Lake City confronts a future without a lake. And while this isn't super prevalent to like activities on the lake, because you can't really go boating and stuff, it still does support that web of wildlife, and the winds can carry clouds of toxic dust laced with arsenic and other heavy metals. Arsenic that's carried from the Great Salt Lake to Utah residents, like in Salt Lake City, like myself, is really, really dangerous. And if this chemical remains in the air, Utahns will potentially have to relocate to a healthier place. So when I was back home for Thanksgiving break, I saw a lot of signs to like save our lake, because it really does scare people there. Like, losing a lake due to climate change could end up making everyone have to relocate. And I wouldn't want that for myself or my family. So I do agree with climate haunting, that climate change does haunt this house, and nothing's really going to change until the habits that we created back in the day are shifted. Because obviously heat has increased, but we haven't really done much to make a difference. Thank you guys so much for listening to today's episode on climate change. I'm so happy that I was able to collaborate with Climate Hauntings, Who Haunts This House, and I look forward to being back soon to discuss the next topic. Thank you guys.